The smartphone in your pocket, the electric car in your driveway, and the AI data centers powering the internet all share a single requirement. They depend entirely on a handful of critical minerals. Many of those minerals are concentrated in one place. One country alone, the Democratic Republic of Congo, produces the majority of the world's cobalt, a key ingredient in lithium-ion batteries. In the 20th century, global power was defined by the control of oil fields. But the technologies driving the next 100 years require a different set of resources: lithium, nickel, copper, and graphite. This shift has transformed Africa from a historically marginalized region into the most strategically essential landmass on Earth. China anticipated this transition decades ago. Since the early 2000s, it has steadily positioned itself as Africa's largest trading partner. Beijing has financed hundreds of billions of dollars in infrastructure, building the railways, highways, and ports needed to move materials across the continent. These investments provided Chinese companies with a specific advantage: direct access to raw material supply chains. By building the infrastructure, they secured stakes in the mines that power global manufacturing. This maneuver gave China an early monopoly over the building blocks of the future economy, and now the rest of the world is rushing to respond. The United States and Europe have realized that their future industries and militaries rely on resources currently controlled by a primary geopolitical rival. This creates a significant vulnerability. When critical materials flow through a single bottleneck, it creates a national security risk. Western powers are now prioritizing supply chain security to reduce this dependence. In response, Western allies are aggressively increasing their diplomatic presence, holding summits and funding alternative supply networks to secure their own access. These policy shifts lead directly to new capital on the ground. Global corporations are now investing heavily in competing mining operations across the continent. This competition dictates which nations will possess the physical components required for the green transition and the AI revolution. While minerals are a major driver of interest, Africa's demographic shift is equally significant. The continent currently has the youngest population in the world. As populations in Europe and East Asia age and decline, Africa's population is surging. By the end of this century, 1 out of every 3 people on Earth will likely live in Africa. This growth creates a massive, untapped workforce and a rapidly expanding consumer market that global investors cannot ignore. Rising labor costs in China are already driving companies to search for new production hubs. Countries like Ethiopia and Kenya are positioning themselves to attract this shifting manufacturing capacity. Africa is evolving into the world's next indispensable factory floor and its largest future consumer base. The final pillar of Africa's influence is its location, astride the world's critical maritime shipping routes. Vital choke points like the Suez Canal and Horn of Africa serve as primary corridors for global trade. Trillions of dollars in goods pass through these waters every year. Stability in these coastal regions affects the health of the entire global economy. When these routes are disrupted, the effects ripple through supply chains worldwide. Influence in Africa provides indirect control over the physical arteries of trade, giving the continent leverage that extends far beyond its own borders. For decades, the 20th century view of Africa has been framed primarily by poverty or conflict, but that outdated perspective is increasingly obsolete. Today, the continent sits at the intersection of energy security, global manufacturing, and technological development. The infrastructure agreements and mining contracts signed in African capitals today establish the foundations of the next global trade network. Global powers are realizing that their own economic longevity now depends on the strength of their partnerships within Africa. The path to global influence in the 21st century leads directly through the continent.